Hi guys, Kate here from Humble Honeybee Design. You've made it to part 3 of our 3-part series on how to print your wedding invitations at home. Today's video is going to be all about how to finish off and trim those beautiful invitations that you printed in part 2 of our series. I'm so excited to get these invitations finished up today and get them in the mail with you. Let's get started. Okay, so let's finally put some wedding invitations together. This is, to me, the most fun part. I love getting out all my tools and putting these together because you really kind of see all your hard work come together to make up the suite, and it's really fun. So before we dive into tools or cutting, I just want to show you guys, we were talking in the other video about different print settings and how they can make a difference on your final pieces. Now, again, I know my lighting is not the best in here. It's kind of crummy, but I'm not sure if this is translating well to camera. These RSVP cards here are a little bit lighter than these are, and that's because I didn't up the intensity on these. These have a little bit of a higher intensity, meaning they are a little bit more saturated, so the color pops a little more on the white. Again, I'm not really too sure you could see that, but I did want to just mention that real quick. So I'm going to put the lighter ones to the side because we're not going to be working with them. And that's why we do test prints, guys. Don't think that you're just going to feed paper into the printer and out is going to come this beautiful piece of paper printed invitation. It's not that glamorous, I promise. You definitely have to have the patience to run a couple test runs and make sure that you're getting the high quality and the look that you want. So you'll see on our paper pieces that we have these crop marks here in the corner, and these are going to guide us when we're trimming these down. If we don't have these crop marks here, it's kind of difficult, not so much on the top, but really along the bottom and the sides to see where you need to be cutting. So definitely add crop marks to that. Add a bleed as well, because you're going to see that this crop mark, where it is on the paper, if you follow my little tool there, I'm going to cut across there, not at the top here, but down a little bit. And again, that's so we can get that design to go right to the edge of our RSVP card there. I have my envelopes that I'm going to be working with. So I have a standard RSVP envelope. So this is a little bigger than 5 by 3.5. And then I have my main outer envelope here. The colors aren't exactly probably what I'd pick for this suite. It's just really what I had on hand. This is an envelopments envelope. You can tell by the flap. They have a really signature, unique flap. And if you're looking to print an envelope liner to match this, after one of the suites that you purchase from us, you're going to be looking for the hybrid envelope liner, where it says hybrid flap. This liner will fit the envelopments envelopes. If you're doing the cards and pockets envelopes, they have the Euro flap. You're going to want to print through the Euro flap. We have our belly bands here, and again, we have a bunch on one sheet. That way we can maximize the paper that we're using. And we have our details and our wedding invitations. And again, I have my crop marks all on here so I know where I'm cutting. It's also really helpful to know what size all your pieces are. So our main invitations are 5 by 7, our details cards are 4 by 6, and our RSVP cards are 3.5 by 5 inches. Those are pretty standard sizes. So let's cut our RSVP cards first. We'll talk about some of the tools that I use. And again, this is another thing that you want to consider. Are you a crafty person? Do you like to, work with your hands? Do you like to do stuff like that? If the answer is no, maybe sending these to a printer is a better option for you, but only you can make that determination. Is it going to cost you a ton of money to purchase some of the tools I'm talking about? Is that something that you're willing to spend money on? Do you think you're going to use them again? Really just weigh your options. I'm not trying to get you guys to do something that's going to cost you a ton of money. The whole point in creating the invitation templates is to help you save money and to help you kind of have that joy in putting them together yourself, only if that's something that you want to experience, of course. So let's talk about a couple things, and these are just recommended, guys. You don't absolutely need to go buy these in order to print your own invites at home. So this is a paper cutter. This is a Fiskars paper cutter. I really like this. It trims really nice. I got this one at Michael's. This little ruler on the side pops out and it helps me keep everything lined up, and I get really nice trim and cuts with these. They're not super expensive. They're not crazy cheap, but if you use the Michael's 40% off coupon, you probably could get a good deal on it. If you're doing your own invitations at home, I would definitely recommend investing in one of these because you can just use an X-Acto knife and a cutting mat like what I have down here. This is like one of those memory mats where you're not able to slice through if you're using a sharp blade. You can find them in like the sewing aisle and stuff, but that's going to take you a little while. You're going to want to use a straight edge, the X-Acto knife, this is just going to go so much faster. It's going to be worth it if you're doing your own invitations at home. This next one is really optional. It's really up to you, but this is a scoring board, and this is from We Are Memory Keepers, and I really like that brand. I have a lot of different stuff by them. This is also a paper trimmer, so if you wanted to get it all in one, this is a really good option. So you can trim the invites on this side here, and then the scoreboard we're going to use for our belly bands because we want to give those a score before we fold them. We don't want to crack the paper. This also comes in handy for any kind of cards. If you're doing thank you cards, you're going to want to score where you're folding because thicker, heavier cardstock will kind of rip a little bit. And it comes with this tool as well, and this is kind of how you score. You just line it up wherever you're going and you press down, and this helps get that score in the paper. So again, if you're not doing belly bands, you probably don't need a scoreboard. So, not trying to make you go out and spend a ton of money on stuff. If you're doing any kind of backer or you're going to do an envelope liner, I would recommend a few other things. This is a little baby tape runner, and this is really good for doing envelope liners, and it's good for doing backers. So you're not going to want to mess with wet glue if you're trying to glue paper pieces together. It's going to get messy. It's going to actually warp and ripple the paper, so I wouldn't recommend it. A glue stick is okay, but you're not going to get the best adhesion with that. And when using especially that glitter stock that I showed you in the other video, it's not easy to get that to adhere if you're using just like a wet glue or a glue stick. So, for someone who's just doing wedding invitations and you're not going to be doing a lot of this in the future, these are just fine. I got these from Hobby Lobby. Elmer's makes some. You can get these really easily. They open and you can change out the little cartridges here, so you can buy the refills for them, and they're at a pretty good price point. Again, if you're not doing a backer or you're not doing an envelope liner, you probably don't need this then. Like I mentioned, I'm obviously always crafting. I do work on wedding suites for couples. I work on invitations for a lot of different occasions. So I have one of these bad boys. This is a Scotch ATG gun, advanced tape glider. And this is a little bit more heavy duty. It's a little bit more on the professional side, but they do sell them. I got this one at Hobby Lobby actually, and then they sell the inserts for it as well. This opens. I'm not going to open it because it's a pain in the butt to change this out. But this is really high quality. It's really easy to use. It has this big handle. You just press this lever and you just roll with this, and you can bang out a bunch of stuff really quickly with this. This is a little bit more expensive though. So again, if you feel like you're going to use it again in the future, go for it. I am the queen of spending money on stuff I don't need because it looks appealing. So I'm not trying to bring anybody into that with me. All right, let's cut something. Let's cut our RSVP cards. And it might be a little bit difficult to see what I'm doing, but all I'm going to do is line up these little crop marks here with my cutter. Now this cutter has a wire. You're probably not going to be able to see it, but there's a wire that runs through. Well, you can see it a little bit. You can hear it. I'm flicking it with my thumb there. And the reason why I like this cutter so much is because this wire shows you exactly where the cut's gonna be. I don't like the trimmer on the We Are Memory Keepers board. I messed a couple pieces up on that. It was harder for me to see exactly where my cut line was gonna be. So I love this thing. And it's small. They make bigger ones. But I found that this works just fine for what I need to be doing with it. So I'm going to cut down a couple of these RSVP cards and then we'll move on to another piece here. Okay, so now that the RSVP card is cut down, you can see that design goes all the way to the edge because the piece that I trimmed off here took a little bit of the design. This is the bleed, essentially. This is the definition of a bleed. I am going to go through the same process with the invitation and the details card, and then we'll trim down the belly bands together. Okay, so now all of our pieces are cut. We have our main invitation cut, we have our details card cut, and our RSVP card cut. Let's cut the belly band. I'm going to do it exactly the same way that I was doing everything else. The only thing is these actually do not have a bleed on them and they do not have crop marks, and that is because they would elevate them to a bigger scale than an 8.5 by 11 inch paper could handle. So I am just going to use where the design cuts off as a guide when I'm cutting. And if you get a little bit of white around the edge, just go back and trim that off. So it's easy because our design is outlining exactly where it needs to go, where our cuts need to go. If we were using a belly band that was white and only had a design in the middle, then I probably would want to put the crop marks on, and there's no need for a bleed in that case. So I'm going to trim these up very similar to the way we trimmed all the separate pieces. Okay, so we have one of our bands cut, and I know what you're thinking. You're like, what? You didn't cut the edges there. There's still white on them. I know. I'm going to leave them. Reason being is if I cut those off, this is a little too short. Again, I'm working within the limitations of an 8.5 by 11 inch sheet of paper. I didn't want to make these any bigger or longer because then it would be a hassle to print them. Like I said before, you can order the longer ones from Cards and Pockets or Envelopments, and you could just get a color that coordinates with it, a pattern that coordinates with it. But if you want to use the ones that we've included, this is how I'm going to show you how to use them. So I just cut it down, leave those little extra pieces, and they're going to be back behind the invitation. I promise no one is going to notice they're there. You're going to be the only one that knows they're there, okay? What we're going to do is we're going to move over onto the scoreboard now, and we're going to throw some scores in this so we can easily wrap it around our main invitation. Okay. So I have my scoreboard here. I'm going to try to zoom in a little bit. Forgive me, guys. I am not a cinematographer, a videographer by any means. And I am still learning every time I shoot. So I line this up with the top measurements here. And you can see it's falling at exactly the 11 inch mark right here, that little groove. The sheet of paper ends right before that little groove. So this is pretty well cut. I'm a little bit longer over here, but that is fine. Basically, we know that our invitation is 5 inches wide. So I am going to just kind of do my best to center this here, and we're going to make a score at 8 and a score at 3. Obviously, the difference is 5 inches. So that'll give us pretty good markings to go off of. And in order to score, all I do is I hold this piece of paper here really tight and flat against the board, and I'm going to use the little tool that was included here. And there are kind of notches up here as to where this tool is going to fit into. So that gives you a starting point, and I'm just going to press down there. And at the 8-inch mark, I'm going to score that there. Okay, and it's probably a little bit difficult to see. I had an oops print, so I just used the same sheet of paper, but there is a little score mark there. I don't know if you can see it, and that is just going to help me fold this around our main invitation. So let me zoom out, and we are going to trim down the envelope liner. I'll talk about that real quick, and we'll get going on putting all the pieces together. Okay, so when we're trimming the envelope liner, it is going to print with this light gray mark all the way around it. And I know you're like, oh, come on, like, I don't want to get that actually in the liner. But if I didn't provide us with this guide, there's no way we'd be able to trim these down accurately. So when you're trimming, I'm going to trim just inside that gray so I don't get it. And now this is an easy template to trim, right? Because it's all straight lines that make up this shape. If you're printing off like a Euro flap liner, you're going to have the tip of it that kind of curves. So you are going to have to cut that by hand. You won't be able to trim that down because we can't trim a curve with our straight paper trimmer. If you are using an envelope that has a square flap, same thing, and it's all straight line cuts, perfect. So the only one you won't be able to trim down is the Euro. The standard envelope liner that has the pointed triangle, that is all straight edges too. So you'll be fine with that. So let's just trim this down using those gray lines as a guide. When we get to this part here, it gets a little weird because our paper is not going to be straight because this is on an angle. So again, another reason why I love this cutter so much is because it puts that wire down on top of the paper for me. And all I have to do is twist and turn my paper until I see that I am perfectly lined up there and run that cut straight through. And I get an awesome cut. I'm going to do the same thing for this side. Again, fold that down, use that wire as my guide, so I know exactly where that blade is going to end up cutting. I'm just beyond the gray line there. And there we go. Only 99 more to go. No, I'm kidding. Is it time consuming? Kind of. Is it easy? Absolutely. Anyone could do this. If you buy 2 paper trimmers, get your maid of honor, your best friend, your mom, your mother-in-law, your fiance to help you cut these down. It goes a lot quicker with more people. All right, guys, we are ready to put this together. Look at all of our pieces. They look awesome. Again, probably wouldn't have chosen these envelope colors. The white is fine. The pink actually isn't too off. It doesn't look too terrible with everything. You could have did a green. This is the fun part. Get creative. Go with whatever color you want to. Just keep in mind, addressing the envelopes, you want to make sure you go with kind of a lighter color so your ink obviously shows up. Let's go ahead and put the liner in the envelope and then we'll get everything else together. So again, I would just give yourself plenty of time to get everything together. It does take a little while, like I mentioned. It's a little time consuming, but it's not difficult. This is super easy. There is a little trick to it, and I'll show you that little trick. I'm going to zoom in again here. Move this up. So what we're going to do is we're going to insert our liner like we're putting a piece of paper or a letter into our envelope. Great. We want to make sure that it is centered. This point on the liner is centered with the point of our envelope. We want to make sure it's not over the gummed line here. This is the adhesive that is ultimately going to close the envelope. So we want to make sure that the liner isn't too much over that, because if it's preventing that from being moistened and then closing the envelope, we're going to have invites that are opening, and that's not a good thing. We also want to make sure on the sides here, we're even. So we don't want to be like that. We don't want to have this almost at the edge and this really big gap here. So we want to just make sure that it's in there, it's centered, it's nice and flush. The way that we adhere this is just on the flap here. There's no adhesive that's going to go in between the liner and the envelope in the body of the envelope. And the reason for that is because the liner actually moves up and down as the envelope is open and closed. And if you secure that down in here, your envelope's not going to open and close very well. So it only gets secured on the flap. The way that I do that, don't just kind of separate these, throw glue here and press that down. You want to fold the envelope closed first. So just going to go on the side here, and I'm keeping my fingers right where the crease of the envelope fold is here. Because again, if I just kind of go like that, this liner could move because it's not put down yet. So I'm keeping my fingers here and I'm closing this, right? Just like that. And then I'm going to take my thumb and crease this really good here. You can use a bone folder, you can use the tool from the scoring kit and get a nice crease on that. That way when you open it, see that? Our liner is already down. All we have to do now, keep it just like that with your envelope flap here. I'm going to take my ATG gun and I'm running that adhesive, running a couple lines there. Just like that. I'm going to take my flap, close it, give it a really good smush, technical term, and then we can open it and our liner's in there. It's secure, it's not going anywhere, and you're not going to be able to see it, but in person you'll see what I'm talking about this moving in here. So now your envelope is ready to stuff. And this goes pretty quick. You can line envelopes pretty quickly. And look how pretty that is. It's a nice little accent. It's just that extra custom feature that kind of elevates the suite, and it takes it from average and boring to, wow, look at these invitations. So I'm going to put that to the side now. We typically don't line the RSVP card envelope because it's real small, and this is going back to you. I'm not saying you're not as important as the guest, but it's typically not done. If for whatever reason you want to do it, contact me. I'll whip up a template for you for it. It's no big deal. And you can line them if you feel that you want to. So what we're going to do now is we're going to talk about how we stack a wedding suite. So there is a specific order that you should follow. Again, you don't have to. These are your invitations. You can do whatever you like. But the way that I do it, I'll take my RSVP envelope and I'll put my card in it like that with the flap over it, just like this. And you're going to stack from big to small. So you're going to start with your main invitation, details card goes on top, envelope and RSVP goes on top of the details card, just like that. Okay. And then we're going to use the belly band to go around and secure everything. What I'm going to do is I'm going to take these pieces, the details card and the RSVP, and I'm going to put them to the side. I'm just going to work with the belly band and the main invitation. Reason being is this is going to get flipped. We're going to fold it. We're going to secure it. We don't need all those other pieces moving around on us. It's just going to be harder to keep track of them all and keep them secure. They're going to slip in with no problem once this is secure. So what's really nice is we've already made these score marks here. So I'm just going to fold my belly band right on those score marks, just like that. See how easy that is? And it's so professional looking too. People are totally not going to think these came off your home printer. See how nice it fits around that? We're going to flip it. Ha! More print boo-boos. Don't do this in real life. Do not have anything printed unless it's a back design on your wedding invitations. There should be no logos. There should be nothing. It could be a picture, maybe of you two. But don't do this. Don't use scrap paper for your wedding invitations. This is for video demonstration purposes only. We're going to close this here. Just like that. You might get a little bit of resistance. That's okay. Again, you can take your bone folder, your score tool, get that down really good. And then you're going to want to secure this just like that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put just a little bit of adhesive here. It's literally one stripe of adhesive. That's how strong this stuff is. I'm going to flip it. I'm going to take my other two pieces here and I'm going to slide them right in. And that's it, you guys. This is ready for the envelope. If you want to be really extra and get crazy and have this elevated even more, you could throw a wax seal right on top of this here. And you could have your initials in it. That would really elevate it. That would look so beautiful. But this is gorgeous as is. All you're going to do is take this, slide this right into your envelope. You're going to seal it up and you're good to go. take one of these to the post office, have them weigh it and tell you how much postage you need before you purchase your postage. Take it from me. I've learned my lesson the hard way many times. Like, oh, I know I'm only going to need 70 cents, 75 cents, 80 cents. Yeah, no. Take one to the post office. And my tip would be whatever post office you're taking it to, mail them from that same post office, because it's crazy how inconsistent the USPS can be. I love them to death, but I have been told 2 different prices for something like this by 2 different post offices. So whichever one you're taking it to get the quote, I would even have your box of invites with you. Say, how much is this going to cost to mail? They'll tell you, purchase the postage, throw all the stamps on it while you're there, give it back to them. If you can communicate and work with the same person there, even better. I know, it's a pain in the butt, but that goes for any kind of wedding invitations, even if you're getting them from a stationer. So let's take a look at this. Your guests are going to open it. They're going to see that beautiful liner. And when they pull this out, all of your pieces are going to be nice and together, and they can pull out their RSVP card, this details card, the invitation. I mean, everything that I design is coordinated to work together. You can tell that this is all matching. This has the same feel. It has the same colors throughout. It's perfect. It's ready to go. I hope that this was helpful for you guys. If you have any questions, please feel free to reach out to me. Don't hesitate. Well, guys, you did it. You made it through each part of our series, and you have beautiful wedding invitations to show. Even if you didn't follow along with our series, you can reference this at a later date once you're ready to work on your wedding invitations. I look forward to seeing you in my next video, and good luck with your wedding stationery.